Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Sheridan, Status Coup, Friday, October 7th, 2022. Hope everybody's having a lovely Friday. Hope everybody is being safe in these trying times. I hope everybody has good weekend plans and all that jazz. I'll just shoot the shit for a little bit as we build up the audience. Um, what a day. What a day it's been. And quite a bit of news to get to. I'm also, well, let me wait. I'll wait till more people come before I drop the beads of what we're going to be talking about. What's up, Chris? Jay Aggression. We got Melanie. Everybody's here. Smash that like button. Share this live stream so we can get this out to more people. Also, comments. Leave a comment. Really makes a difference in the algorithm since YouTube likes to hide us. Hey, Jordan, thanks for not selling out. Never. I've had opportunities to sell out, but I have not, and I will not. Quite a lot to get to. We have developments, updates in the Trump Mar-a-Lago classified documents scandal, which is not looking good for Trump, if you ask me. I do think, as I've been saying all along, there's a pretty significant chance he will be prosecuted. So we'll give you updates on that. Also going to interview an Amazon worker from JFK 8, the Staten Island warehouse that had a fire on Monday. And of course, Amazon tried to get workers to go back to work right after that fire. Nearly 100 workers protested going back to work because they could still, smell and inhale the fire smoke. And for not wanting to go back to work, Amazon has suspended 80 workers, suspended them. So we're going to speak with one of those workers, Brett Daniels, and get updates on where things stand. That is in, by the way, the unionized Amazon warehouse, which Amazon has still not recognized. There that they won the union election. And a very, very revealing clip on CNN. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people would have noticed, but I did. Very, very revealing clip on CNN that where they accidentally, I would say, revealed how corrupt this country is. So we're going to get to that a little bit later. Again, smash that like button, share this live stream. Any updates on the rail strike? No. A lot of these unions are still going through the contract, and they have not voted yet on the new proposed tentative agreement. So when I have an update, you'll get an update on a potential rail strike. So let's get to the Trump stuff. And again, share this live stream. Makes a big difference. Super chats were roaring yesterday. We need it. Colin and I were going through expenses earlier today. We got a lot of expenses. We got to, obviously, we pay folks. Tina is on twice a week now, including hosting her own show. Kim Brown hosting a show. You have Ron Placone, who's on vacation, but he's going to be coming back and co-hosting.
FaceTime video.
Hold on. Ron Placone is hosting with Tina, and he's going to be hosting once a week himself, too. So we got a lot of expenses, not to mention the travel costs, equipment, live view. As of now, I believe I'm going to be going up to Albany on Monday to cover a rally for the Amazon workers in Albany 2 days before their union election, which will be the second union election. So a lot to discuss, a lot going on. So let's start with the Trump stuff. And again, super chats are welcome. This from The Guardian: Trump expected to launch dozens of TV ads boosting Republicans in key races. Republican Senate candidates like Mehmet Oz, J.D. Vance, and Herschel Walker likely to receive majority of Trump's assistance. So the puppy killers, the hillbilly grifters, and the whatever you call Herschel Walker these days, the abortion for me, fascism for thee, Herschel Walker. Oz is the puppy killer, by the way. Donald Trump is expected to launch dozens of television ads to boost Republicans in key races across the country, with the former U.S. president asserting his political influence as the campaigns head into the final stretch of midterm elections. The spots, funded through a newly and specially created political action committee christened MAGA Inc. Oh, that definitely will be without scandal. MAGA Inc. An abbreviation for Make America Great Again, are anticipated to come in several waves of messaging over the coming weeks. Trump is expected to provide the majority of assistance to Mehmet Oz, J.D. Vance, and Herschel Walker. All three right-wing Senate candidates have experienced rocky campaigns, blah, 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 blah. And already we're seeing, if you have the tweet, Colin, Trump's new super PAC, MAGA Inc., just placed a $750,000 ad buy to support Herschel Walker. Ad impact is showing. So almost $1 million. This is a Trump super PAC. So it's if you are misfortunate enough to be on Donald Trump's email list since the Mar-a-Lago raid, I mean, they've been bombarding. I think he's been sending at least 10 to 15 emails a day, all with, very urgent messages that they're coming after us and yada, 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 begging for money. So I don't know if this money is coming from those funds that have been raised since the Mar-a-Lago raid or elsewhere. It's very unlikely. Actually, it's definitely not Trump's own money, because he doesn't like to spend his own money on other people, or really he doesn't like to spend a lot of his money, period, on political campaigns. He spent very little of his own personal money in 2016 or 2020. But almost $1 million on Herschel Walker. I don't really know what those ads are going to be, because Herschel Walker is not particularly running on anything per se, other than, vote for me and we'll get the Senate. He's not running on any policies, abortion, those kind of things. I assume the ads won't be addressing him paying for his baby mama's abortion. I don't know. Trump might be, there's been reports that Trump and certain parts of the Republican Party wanted him to basically respond in a more Trumpy way, kind of think the Access Hollywood tapes that came out in 2016. But the reason that it's important that Trump is starting to get involved with his super PAC's money is on the criminal end for Trump. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. This from the New York Times came last night. Justice Department is said to believe Trump has more documents. Conversations between department officials and the former president's representatives have underscored investigator skepticism about his cooperation and exposed a rift among his lawyers. A top DOJ official told former President Trump's lawyers in recent weeks that the department believed he had not returned all the documents he took when he left the White House, according to two people briefed on the matter. This is another DOJ leak to the New York Times, and they have been leaking to the Washington Post as well. The outreach from the official, Jay Bratt, who leads the department's counterintelligence operations, is the most concrete indication yet that the investigators remain skeptical that Trump has been fully cooperative in their efforts to recover documents the former president was supposed to have turned over to the National Archives at the end of his term. It is not clear what steps the Justice Department might take to retrieve any material it thinks Trump still holds. And it is not known whether the Justice Department has gathered new evidence that Trump has held on to government material, even after the court-authorized search in August of his private club and residence in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, and 18 months of previous efforts. Why I think this is important, and the fact that this, again, the Department of Justice is strategically leaking information to the Times, the Washington Post, is we assume the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago in August got everything, but Trump has properties in Bedminster, New Jersey, his golf club. He's got properties elsewhere. And it's very clear that there were people inside Trump's orbit that tipped off to the FBI and the DOJ that led them to raid Mar-a-Lago. So if they have witnesses that tipped them off in the first place, hey, he hasn't returned everything, he has X, Y, and Z at Mar-a-Lago, here's where it is. So they knew where to look when they got there. Reason would stand, the FBI or DOJ probably have those witnesses and are consulting with those witnesses on what they retrieved, making sure, is this everything? I would assume, my total speculation, my guess is Possibly the informants were Trump's lawyers or one lawyer. Could have been a member of the Secret Service who by law has to report crimes if they know of crimes. So I don't think they would have leaked this unless they actually had reason to believe, possibly evidence, that there's still stuff out there. Which, if there's stuff out there, if Trump has not returned everything at this point, I already think he's going to be prosecuted. But if he's still withholding stuff, I think that's a slam dunk to a conviction. Because if he hasn't returned everything after he returned 15 boxes in January of this year and made it seem like that was everything, if he hasn't returned everything after in June, DOJ lawyers, FBI agents came down to Mar-a-Lago. They met with Trump's lawyers. One of Trump's lawyers certified in writing that we have given you everything back. If they hadn't, then after the raid, if there's still stuff out there, I mean, he's intentionally hiding material. So we'll see. I'm not, predicting another raid somewhere, but I know how media works. The New York Times, the Washington Post, you have to look at the timing of when these stories are coming out. It's very likely that the DOJ, FBI has evidence that there's more out there, and they are floating this out there basically because in back channel negotiations, Trump or his lawyers are still withholding documents. I don't know what the documents are that he would be withholding, but they're not leaking this information for no reason. Definitely not for no reason. I want to show up his tweet. Is Andrew Weissman. He's a former lawyer with the DOJ. What's with DOJ playing footsie with Trump? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. How about treating Trump like anyone else and charge him? Which, honestly, I mean, we live in the United Corporations of America. There's basically three different legal systems. One for wealthy white men, mostly white men. A second one for kind of like white working class kind of people. And then a third one for Black, brown, and indigenous people. But make no mistake, if the DOJ or FBI raided any one of us, we would have been in jail already if we had classified documents. But if we weren't in jail for whatever reason, and they believed we were still withholding information, you better believe they would raid us. You'd have SWAT teams like nobody's business if they believed that after raiding us, we were still withholding information. So Trump is getting every latitude, every single latitude. Him and the right-wing hysteria that the deep state's coming after him, and it's all a political witch hunt. He has gotten every benefit of the doubt, and they have gone, the DOJ, in my view, to extraordinary measures, twisting themselves into a pretzel to give him privileges that no one else would have gotten. And keep those super chats coming. I'll read them at the end. Very much appreciate it. And smash that like button. We got 150 people watching. Only 100 of you have pressed the like button. And in about 10 minutes, we're going to have an Amazon worker join us with an update on the suspended workers who were suspended for the crime of refusing to return to work after a fire in the warehouse. So we're going to talk to him and get more an update on that. So I also want to show, this came out today from The Guardian. Donald Trump seeks to withhold 2 folders seized at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump is seeking to withhold from the Justice Department 2 folders marked as containing correspondence with the National Archives and signing sheets that the FBI seized from his Mar-a-Lago resort, according to court filings in the Special Master Review. The former president's privilege assertions over the folders, which appear to have direct relevance to the criminal investigation into whether he retained national defense information and obstructed justice, are significant as they represent an effort to exclude the items from the inquiry and keep them confidential. So the fact that Trump is trying to exclude correspondence with the National Archives, to me, indicates at the end of the day, if he's prosecuted, they need to prove, the DOJ, the FBI, they would have to prove that this wasn't some accident. Trump was steering the ship. Trump was steering his lawyers to lie. Trump was knowingly withholding information that they had represented as everything's returned. So there might be something in those communications with the National Archives that show Trump involved directly that he wants to exclude from the criminal prosecution being able to use it. But again, none of this looks good. None of this is good for Trump. And still, we're talking now 2 months after this raid. They haven't even tried to make they haven't put a legal argument forward in writing in any court filings that he had declassified these. They've said it in the media, but in court filings, he has not put up any in writing that all of this was declassified. They still haven't explained why he took these documents. So at this point, I just think it's kind of like the countdown clock. I think they're waiting till after the midterms. I think it's very likely that they might prosecute him soon after the midterms. And I think it's very likely why I led this live stream with the report of Trump getting involved with his super PAC to try and help puppy killer Dr. Oz, try to help fake hillbilly J.D. Vance, and try to help, abortion for me, fascism for thee, Herschel Walker, is because I think it's very likely, and you could save this recording. If the Republicans retake the House, which I think they are going to, if they retake the Senate, more iffy, I think Trump will announce he's running for president again, either that night or the next morning. Because I think Trump's playbook here, if you know anything about Donald Trump, short term. Never worry about the long term. And the short term in his mind is it's harder for them to prosecute me if I'm an announced candidate. If I'm officially running for president, if I'm out there with his loony rallies, it's harder for them to prosecute. In reality, legally, it's not harder for them to prosecute him if he's an announced candidate. I mean, there's nothing stopping them from legally prosecuting him. But narrative-wise, it would help him to say, this is all a deep state plot. They're trying to stop us and our movement from making America great again, and saving America, or whatever the hell the slogan is now. So I think he wants to be able to announce lickety-split. So, we'll see. And the last thing that came out this week, Trump's lawyers refused his request in February to say all the documents were returned. After initial return of 15 boxes, his attorney, Alex Cannon, thought there might be more records at Mar-a-Lago. People familiar with the matter told the Washington Post. Again, it's another DOJ leak. Former President Trump asked one of his lawyers to tell the National Archives and Records Administration in early 2022 that Trump had returned all materials requested by the agency. But the lawyer declined because he was not sure the statement was true. Wow. An actual logical, not insane lawyer for Trump. As it turned out, thousands more government documents, including some highly classified secrets, remained at Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence and private club. The later discovery of those documents through a May grand jury subpoena and the August 8th FBI search of the Florida property are the heart of the criminal investigation. Alex Cannon, an attorney for Trump, had facilitated the January transfer of 15 boxes of presidential records from Mar-a-Lago to the National Archives after archives officials agitated for more than a year to get, quote, all original presidential records back, which they are required by law to do. Following months of stonewalling by Trump's representatives, archive officials threatened to get the Justice Department or Congress involved. Here, another thing that I think is very, very important in terms of why I think Trump's going to be prosecuted. Trump himself eventually packed the boxes that were returned in January, people familiar with the matter said. The former president seemed determined in February to declare that all materials sought by the archives had been handed over, said the people who, like others interviewed for this article, spoke on the condition of blah, 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 blah. So again, it's very clear to me this is a DOJ leak. They're leaking this to the Washington Post. I don't think Trump was literally standing over the boxes, boxing it himself or packing these boxes himself. But I do think Trump was involved personally in what's going in those boxes and what's not going in those boxes, which again, that is indicative of he was directly involved. This wasn't some lawyer screwing up or doing something nefarious. It wasn't, the Mar-a-Lago pool cleaner. It was Trump. It was Trump directly. So, these are really important things. And I think that it sets up a pretty interesting situation. It sets up a pretty, oh, hold on. It sets up a pretty interesting situation because, again, it seems very clear Trump is trying to run out the clock. Everything his lawyers have done is trying to delay the process, I think, to give him time to announce his run. But I mean, it seems pretty open and shut. Pretty open and shut to me what's going on here. It seems by all the reports that have come out, which again, you would have to think the DOJ has evidence of these things if they are leaking it to all these media outlets. I mean, I don't see any scenario that he's not prosecuted. Now, whether he's convicted, that's a whole nother story. And if he's prosecuted, I don't know. I mean, we've been going over it this week. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene at these Trump rallies saying the Democrats are coming to kill you. The killings have begun. You have Trump putting out there, McConnell's got a death wish in all caps. I think if he's I'm not saying he should not be prosecuted, but I am saying if he's prosecuted, the political violence that we're seeing and the political rhetoric that we're seeing, if he's prosecuted, I do believe you are going to see an explosion in political, at least violent rhetoric, threats, and potential violence, because in many cases, Trump and his supporters, it's become a bit of a cult. So we'll see what happens. If there's any updates further, we'll get to it next week. Keep smashing that like button, share this live stream so more people can get to it. 200 people watching. Does anyone know the difference between prosecuted and convicted? I do. I'm not gonna wager whether Trump is going to be convicted, because that's a whole nother story. It would really depend on how overwhelming the evidence is. But in my view, at this point, you would really have a revolt within the Department of Justice, the FBI, if they throw all this out there, all this public information about everything that Trump withheld. We know that the CIA and the FBI, who God knows they have planted evidence on innocent people, mostly black people, by the way, indigenous people. God knows they're all sorts of criminal in many ways, especially the CIA. But their sacred cow is human sources, protecting spies. Their sacred cow is classified documents, much of which should not be classified. We know that document classifications of documents have been abused basically since the mid-20th century. I give you the Kennedy assassination. Thankfully, the JFK Records Act rectified a lot of that. So, I don't think it's sustainable. And I don't think credibly the DOJ could say, well, this was all for transparency's sake. We wanted to get the information out there, but, we're not going to do this because he was a former president. I don't think so. I really don't. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. Let's see. Is Brett here yet? Not yet. Okay. So while we're waiting for our Amazon worker guest, and keep smashing that like button, I want to show a clip. From CNN that it was just something. And you'd really have to be paying close attention to understand the significance here. You'd have to really be focused, because to CNN, what I'm about to show you is just normal, day-to-day business. It's just the price of doing business in DC. Corruption is normal. Political donors buying off our government, completely normal. But I thought this was really something. So if you don't know, I did a video on it earlier. Biden, behind closed doors at a donor fundraiser with donors, basically stoked that we might have nuclear Armageddon on our doorsteps. He said that we have never been closer to nuclear Armageddon since the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Talking about Vladimir Putin's threats to potentially use nuclear weapons. He said that he doesn't know what Putin's off-ramp is, all these things. A follow-up report came out that, like many things Joe Biden says, his aides, people in the military, were very, very caught off guard by this, because they don't have any new intelligence per se. that on Putin, preparing to use nuclear weapons or anything like this. So pretty irresponsible thing for Biden to say publicly or privately. Like, don't be talking about, hey, there might be a nuclear Armageddon, and we haven't been this close to nuclear apocalypse since the Cuban Missile Crisis, which, by the way, not entirely true. I mean, it's not really comparable when you look at the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was literally nukes pointed at 90 miles off of the United States coast from Cuba, 90 miles from Florida. That's not currently happening here. That was potentially an imminent threat to the United States. This is not. Now, that doesn't mean Putin is stable. It doesn't mean it's totally, without, it doesn't mean it's without, the possibility that he could just totally lose it and launch a nuke. But this, to me, when you start talking like this, I think he knows stuff he says behind closed doors can leak. That could inch somebody like Putin closer to doing something crazy. So completely irresponsible talk. There should be no discussion of we're near nuclear Armageddon. I don't, obviously a lot of people were wrong. A lot of people were wrong as far as Russia invading Ukraine. But as of now, I don't see any evidence that Putin's crazy enough to use nukes. All right, hold that thought. We'll get back to that because my guest is here. Joining me now, Brett Daniels of the Amazon Labor Union. How you doing, man?
We're hanging in here.
So let me just lay it down for the audience. For those that don't know, there's been a bit of a just one fire after the other at Amazon warehouses. There's been 2 in Alabama. Then there was one at the JFK 8 location on Monday. Colin, can we play a clip of the fire at JFK 8?
Oh, shit. Evacuate. Let me go get my damn van. Yeah.
So that was happening at a compactor that breaks down cardboard and other things. You were there at the warehouse. Can you kind of talk about Amazon made it seem like it was some small thing, but from what I was told, I mean, you could smell the smoke for hours and hours after.
Yeah, so many workers complained about smelling the smoke for hours and hours after. I found out about the fire happening literally as I was heading to my night shift as scheduled at 5:45. So it was just in the hour before that the fire happened, and everyone from day shift was evacuated and then sent home with pay. So when we got there, we were immediately herded in like sheep. 600 plus workers herded into one small, main break room of a cafeteria, literally, less than a football field, over capacity. Clearly, a health and safety and fire hazard after just experiencing a fire. And immediately I'm told by a learning trainer that the same compactor had been seen smoking, and then Amazon put water on it about a month ago. Jesus. So this, and then as well as the facility in Alabama, HSB1, which a week before Monday had caught fire as well. These, it's not just a pattern, it's by design. Amazon and corporations' failure to take care of their workers and put health and safety first over profit.
And I also want to point out the warehouse I think it was in Huntsville, they had a fire about a week ago. They closed down for several days. So they didn't force their workers back to work right away. For some reason, they sent your day shift home, the day shift workers home, but then we're kind of leaving you, the night shift workers, I guess, in purgatory, like you had to wait in the cafeteria. Can you kind of talk about what happened next? Because I know workers then kind of did a bit of a sit down strike.
So yes, I'm very frustrated about this because, not only was I a directly affected worker, but feeling for all of my coworkers' safety and well-being. And so for Amazon, for me to immediately ask a manager, hey, like a friend had provided a ride for me. They're waiting outside trying to figure out what's going on. We thought, of course they would send us home, surely, because they sent the day shift home with pay. So that, we were expecting that to be the case. But then when I spoke with the manager, they said that they were assessing the situation, which clearly, showed to me, they were trying to see if it was safe enough to, deem safe to return to work, but it was clearly how much profit they were going to make off of us that night.
Or lose if you
Exactly. So then when they had told us in the first announcement that they were going to send us all back to work, immediately, authentically, I was just saying, send us home with pay. And then, I'm calling Chris, our union president, because of course, all of us did not feel safe to return to work. It was not safe to return to work. So why were, we, as leaders and as humans gonna, put our fellow, coworkers and comrades at risk as well? So we felt necessary that we did not go back to work. So then, Chris said what was going on. I said that, we were speaking with our coworkers, trying to let everybody know, like, their rights, that they did not have to go back if they did not feel safe to return to work, that Amazon could not use it against them. So then, when I said send us home with pay, everyone joined in. Because
we have a clip of that. Colin, can we play that? So obviously, I mean, it's just like common sense. A, you already had a fire. B, all right, maybe that fire's out, but is there something else wrong? Is something else going to light on fire? What was Amazon saying in terms of why they were keeping you? Basically, they were saying, well, the fire department cleared it.
Yeah, that's all that they said, and workers were demanding that they see something of proof. And when they didn't give the proof, that's when we knew it's like something was up, because we knew, if you feel that it's an abnormally dangerous environment, working environment, you have the right, like a federal right, not to return to work and to either, do a work stoppage or a walkout, and can't be reprimanded for such. So we were, encouraging, fellow coworkers who did not feel safe to return to work, not to. Then a manager literally said that if they do not feel safe, then they can go home.
Yep.
So then it was just clear. We, after we demanded that, we be sent home with pay, we said, all right, we're going to go march on the boss. We're going to go to the manager's office and HR and demand it, that we all get sent home with pay. It made sense. It happened for the day shift. You can do the same for us. And when that wasn't, when they continued to just prolong the whole situation, they weren't listening to any of our coworkers. We made the demand. We said, we get sent home with pay or we walk out. there was already a chance of PTO, which is paid time off. And then, we said PTO or we walk out. And then, so when they didn't meet the demands, then we went to go walk out. And then, and only then, in showing our collective action how it worked, they conceded in giving us, up until that point, pay, and then said, okay, you can go home. If you don't feel safe, you can return to work. If you need, because some people, even if they did, no one felt safe, but still needed to make bills. People have families to provide for. So a lot of people still felt, just for that reason, that they needed to return to work. So it went from, it was hundreds that, were with us in the work stoppage in the cafeteria. Then, it was still over 100 that participated in the March on the Boss, in the managers and HR's office. And
just to ask, while this was going on, could you guys still smell the smoke?
Yeah, there were people literally. I just got shown by a coworker who was there, who participated in the work stoppage. They sent me footage just recently that they were saying in the video that you could still smell it, that workers were still smelling it. You could. There was such a strong fumes coming from the south side. And then a coworker who I believe was suspended as with pay as well was one who went to the hospital the following day from complications of breathing from the smoke.
And let's get to that. So I did see a video where a manager said, I can't make any decisions, but if you don't feel comfortable, go home. How does it go from that to 80 workers are suspended?
We're talking corporate greed and trying to suppress a union and workers movement so large that they're so scared that they needed to, the only choice was to suspend these workers who led such a, and were involved in such a movement. It was so huge, such collective action for my coworkers, for all of us to join in together, because we knew that this wasn't right. It was so ridiculous. And then for one of my coworkers to say they were waiting for someone to take action. Then we started chanting. It's like the bystander effect. If no one does anything, if you're just waiting for something, it's like we knew that we had to do something, and we had to stand for what's right. And that's what I love about this movement. It's always been organically workers from within. It's like it's a worker-led, worker-centered movement for the people. This is all bigger than all of us. So just like that moment, it did not matter about what was legal, what we were being told. We knew it wasn't right. We knew it wasn't safe. We knew it was abnormally dangerous, and that we had the right to stand up for justice.
And what is Amazon's rationale? I mean, obviously it's bullshit, but what is their rationale for suspending you? What did they say you did wrong?
Well, I just followed up with the ERC today, and because I never actually received an email, unlike most of my comrades who joined in the work stoppage, I never received an email. They never notified me, just like they never notified anyone that a fire was happening. They never notified me. So it wasn't until today that I found out from the ERC that I am officially suspended with pay as predicted, because my badge didn't work when I went the day that I was supposed to, when I was scheduled to work. I went to test it because we knew that a bunch of our coworkers were suspended. So then we took that, and then the fact that they removed me from the schedule. Now, the interesting thing to note is that they said the suspension is not coded yet, but the local site will let me know when I can return to work, that they can't see the results of the investigation, but HR will be following up. So
investigation into what? What are they investigating?
exactly. They say they're investigating us all, but for what? What policy? What did we do wrong? They themselves, this Amazon spokesperson, has said it was because we were involved in a work stoppage. So your only point is that, oh, you're trying to suppress a movement because it worked? Our collective action worked? That I don't know what to tell you. The fact that Albany, that Skodak, ALB1, had a fire, that we had 3 fires within 1 week, that when, that at JFK and in Alabama, both sites, they had a systemic issue. If you have these corporations regularly not taking care of their products, of their sites, of their workers, injuries are going to happen constantly. Ambulances, literally, when the union president, our president and vice president, and myself, when we went down there just this past week to ALB1, of course, yet again, another ambulance. They're always there. It's a regular thing for ambulances and police. The night of the work stoppage, when we walked out, there were 4 pig cars there. Why are the NYPD at our workplace so regularly?
And you brought up the Albany fire. By the way, I'm not connecting dots, but it just so happens that fire happened a week before they're up for a union election. So Albany, they're the second now warehouse that might unionize. Their union election starts on October 12th. I'm coming up to the rally on Monday, by the way, to cover it. So hopefully you're there. There's going to be a rally on Monday for Albany workers 2 days before the election. We should point out that you guys won your historic victory in April, and Amazon has still not recognized your union. They're still fighting to overturn it, which is just crazy. But the point I wanted to make, when Albany had a fire, I think it was Wednesday, they shut down for the entire day shift. So why is it that Amazon doesn't seem to have any actual consistent guidelines if there's a fire? Alabama, like I mentioned, they shut down for several days after a fire. So Alabama, several days they shut down. Albany, they shut down the entire day. They brought back the night shift, which is kind of crazy. But you guys, yeah, we'll kind of shut things down for an hour. Again, get back to work. I call me cynical, but JFK 8 is one of their biggest earners in terms of productivity. So maybe other warehouses, all right, we'll be a little safer because this warehouse doesn't produce the bulk of our money, but JFK 8 is a cash cow.
Yep, by design. It's all by design. They're exploiting the workers regularly, the unsafe conditions, they're sending us back home. And then by design, the ALB1 got sent home with pay and, like you said, the day shift. Now we think, and I'll say it myself, and another worker pointed out that they're thinking it's correlated with the fact of our work stoppage. That, because we, stood our ground and, demanded it, and that it's a regular, you should send your workers home and take care of them when there's an unsafe working environment. It just makes sense. But no, yet again, just caring about profit.
I'm pretty sure Amazon is not so impoverished that if there was smoke coming out of this compactor a month ago, they probably could have replaced it. You're saying they just dumped water on it.
Yeah, because these are this is happening at so many facilities. So many more workers at different facilities have reached out and said that this has happened at their facility as well. And so, and it just gets buried by these corporations. They don't want you to know that this is happening.
Have you guys filed complaints with OSHA?
We are actively encouraging all suspended and involved workers to not only file their complaints with OSHA, but file their NLRB charges, National Labor Relations Board, and file an unfair labor practice charge, as well as follow up with HR and writing them an email requesting a coworker and peer be present during their investigative interview, which in effect is demanding our Weingarten rights because we need them.
And Weingarten rights are your right to have a witness when you're brought into HR.
Yeah, with a manager or HR in an investigation or an interview, you're allowed to have a coworker or peer be present in such unionized workplaces. But we're hoping that the National Labor Relations Board will expand it to all, including non-unionized workplaces.
Right. Call me cynical. Seems like a ploy by Amazon to use a pretext to fire some of the most active people in the Amazon labor union by whatever, saying you obstructed workflow, yada, 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 even though you just didn't want to go back to work after a fire. Does it seem to you like this is a ploy by Amazon to get rid of some of you?
I think that in their minds, it was the most strategic tactic that they could take in suppressing the union and workers movement for workers' rights and justice and liberation for all. And so the number one, enemy or target in their minds is us and us winning our contract, which not only will improve lives for Amazon JFK, but also all Amazon and the entire working class. If you make the conditions better at a industry leader, then it's got to be, better working conditions for all everywhere.
Right. And lastly, you and some other ALU folks went up to Albany to help them organize their elections coming up. What's the mood on the ground there? Obviously, I'm not asking you to predict whether they'll win, but do you see momentum there that they might have a chance?
Yeah. So just this past few days when Chris, Derek, and I went, it was beautiful to talk to multiple process assistants, which are just under management, tier 3 level. So highly respected leaders within Amazon and in multiple, departments, but then they had their entire teams with them, all listening and asking questions to us. So it was beautiful dialogue, and the fact that you have PAs ending their chat saying that they agree with everything that we had to say is beautiful, because in raising consciousness to the working class and realizing that we're all better off collectively and not focusing on our individual issues, but the collective together, and that it's us versus the bosses.
Absolutely. Stay safe. It's outrageous that you're suspended for the crime of not wanting to go inhale fumes. I think OSHA needs to get its ass to every Amazon warehouse, because God knows what faulty equipment they have. God knows what corners they've been cutting. Bezos and his ilk. I mean, you guys are just numbers on a balance sheet. And clearly there's something wrong here. If Alabama, it's shut down for a couple days after a fire. Albany will shut down for a day. But Staten Island, which happened to have won the first union, we'll give you a 5-minute break, then get back to work after a fire. It's insane. Absolutely insane. And again, reminder, because the media is barely covering any of this, Albany starts their election on Wednesday. It goes for several days. If they're victorious, that would be the second unionized Amazon this year. And I don't know. I think that has potential to have a domino effect to other warehouses then filing. What do you think about that?
I think it's beautiful, and it will be the second in U.S. history. So
absolutely. Thank you, Brett. I'll be up there Monday covering the rally in Albany, so hope to see you.
All right. Solidarity.
All right. Take care. So that was Brett Daniels. Sorry that it was a bit choppy. That was on his end, but it's absolutely insane. And by the way, do you think it's kind of a news story that maybe, I don't know, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, the New York Times could be bothered to ask Amazon why they have 4 fucking fires in a week in the North, in the South? Why a $1 trillion company? $1 trillion company. Why this is happening at their warehouses? Maybe they could add why they can't figure out air conditioning for their workers too during the summer, because they have air conditioners for the executives and the HR people, but on the floor they have to use fans to blow hot air back at themselves. It's crazy. So thank you to Brett for coming on. Before Brett came on, I was starting on another segment, so I want to before we wrap today, keep those super chats coming. I'll read them at the end. I saw this on CNN, and it was just, they accidentally just told the story of America, the United Corporations of America, which is this country is a corrupt cesspool. So they were talking about, Biden behind closed doors at his fundraiser with the donors who have bought the Democratic Party and basically bought America, that he talked about nuclear Armageddon. We haven't been this close since the Cuban Missile Crisis, which I already explained why that's not a good comparison. Watch this clip the CNN shows and tell me if you see anything that seems a little off.
No way for the leader of a nuclear-armed state to speak, and that's what the president was making very clear about.
Jake, it's tough to miss the venue in which these remarks were made. Not in a major speech or address, not in a press conference. This was made in a private donors meeting at a private New York City residence. And to some degree, that's become a feature, not a bug. The president has regularly spoken a little bit more candidly in those meetings. Officials say they acknowledge, at least, that it is in those meetings that the president can give you brief windows of what's really being discussed and debated behind the scenes, sometimes even if it's a little bit different than the public message, Jake.
All right, Phil Mattingly at the White House for us. Thanks so much.
So Biden feels more comfortable. It's like Hillary Clinton said, there's a public position and a private position. Biden, he lets his hair down when it's, bankers he's around, or, pharma executives, or real estate developers, or big financial lawyers, or big nonprofit executives. That's where he feels most at home. He says he's a union man, Joe, but it's at these gated off private residences that he feels, a little bit more laid back to reveal that, we're on the brink of nuclear Armageddon. I want to play that clip one more time, if you don't mind. You there, Colin? Maybe. There you go.
For the leader of a nuclear-armed state to speak, and that's what the president was making very clear about.
Jake, it's tough to miss the venue in which these remarks were made. Not in a major speech or address, not in a press conference. This was made in a private donors meeting at a private New York City residence. And to some degree, that's become a feature, not a bug. The president has regularly spoken a little bit more candidly in those meetings. Officials say they acknowledge, at least, that it is in those meetings that the president can give you brief windows of what's really being discussed and debated behind the scenes, sometimes even if it's a little bit different than the public message.
A little bit different than the public message. I mean, really, they're just reporting very casually, because they don't see it as corruption, that this country is a corrupt cesspool, that our government is a corrupt bought cesspool, that our politicians, whatever they're saying to the public, completely different than what's actually happening in the background and in these donor meetings, because that's who they represent, their donors, they feel a little bit more comfortable to be candid. Again, I think Biden needs to kind of be quiet on the nuclear Armageddon thing, because you might say something that actually convinces Putin he should do something crazy. But I mean, Colin, am I overthinking or overinterpreting what he was just describing? It seems to me that he's very casually saying there's a public position and a private position.
Well, I think I think at some level he also was aware, because he even said he implied that some people might think it's a bug, but it's actually a feature, meaning that you might think it's a bug that he reveals secret stuff to only private people who are rich. But, that's actually the best part about Biden.
Right. Right. It's a feature, not a bug, meaning this is our system. And what's amazing to me is this is all fine. When you're a reporter in Washington, D.C., this is why I never wanted to. Jank tried to get me to move to D.C. when I was with the Young Turks. He wanted me to be based in D.C. And I said, I don't want to go to D.C. Because when you're in D.C., you become basically this shit becomes normal. You become conditioned to just, well, that's just the way it is. That's politics. Stenographer for power. They're at the mercy of their donors. They give PowerPoint presentations to their donors on what their plans are or strategy or policy. They spend 75% of their time. There's been reports at a off-site location away from the Capitol, dialing for dollars. You just kind of become numb to it, and you think it's normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to have donor meetings. That shouldn't be in a democracy, a supposed representative democracy. It shouldn't be that politicians feel more comfortable with their sugar daddies and sugar mommies, their fat cats that grease their wallets, than the people. And if this is what Biden says when he feels very comfortable, I'd love to be a fly on the wall when he's having more private meetings with bank executives, with big real estate executives, with big Silicon Valley executives, fossil fuel executives. Doesn't even need to be executives. That's why we say the United Corporations of America. Get your United Corporations of America shirt. StatusCoup.com/store. Get it now. And your fossil fuckers shirt. StatusCoup.com/store. Just saying. I mean, besides the craziness, and by the way, I'm not saying it's, totally beyond the possibility that Vladimir Putin would ever take the grave, insane, reckless step of using a nuclear weapon. I'm not saying that. But there is no evidence that Vladimir Putin is planning to, that they're preparing to. So the fact that Biden is saying this stuff in public or private is very, very dangerous. But the fact that, as that CNN reporter just gave away the game, it's not a feature. It's a bug. Colin, save that clip because I want to play it in the future to show this is just one giant system of legalized bribery. And they're most comfortable behind the scenes with their financial fat cats. Let me read some super chats. Chris Garrett, $25. Gas money for the Albany trip. Thank you, Chris. Oh, reminder. As of now, I think the rally is going to be on Monday, which is Columbus Day, I think, or Indigenous Peoples Day, I should say. That's a better name. I think it's at 1:00 in Albany. So I'll probably be live from there in Albany, covering the Albany Amazon workers, a rally 2 days before their union election. It's a bit of a drive to get up there for me. So definitely support us if you can with a super chat or sign up as a member. Do you see any other independent outlets leaving the studio and covering union fights, union organizing, worker strikes on the ground? Because if you do, please show me. I don't know any other outlet that goes to these things, that covers these things on the ground, that gives the microphone back to the people. There's a lot of people asking you for money, and basically what they do is a nonstop hamster wheel of hot takes and bullshit. We're on the ground. So support us. StatusCoup.com/join. Become a member for $5 to $10 a month. It makes a huge difference. And we got more bills to pay. Obviously, Tina now has a show. We pay her. Kim does a weekly show for us. And tune in Wednesdays, 5 o'clock Eastern for Kim Brown. She's doing a great job. Ron Placone, who's in Italy right now, but he'll be back next week. He's co-hosting. Got Steve Grumbine. Let's Get Ready for Grumble is on Sundays at 2 o'clock Eastern. So we got more mouths to feed here. Colin, behind the scenes, obviously does great work. Dean, who helps us with analytics and search engine and all this behind the scenes stuff I don't want to bore you with. So we need money to operate, and we need money when I go up to Albany to pay a cameraman. So a lot of expenses. We don't just sit in the studio and shoot the shit. So please support us. StatusCoup.com/join. Dave L, $5. Putin is not some crazed loose cannon. He is unfortunately entirely rational about the NATO buildup on his border. Yes and no. I agree with you that he's not some crazy loose cannon, but I am not like these other leftists who basically put it all on Ukraine and breathlessly ignore that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. The NATO expansion and NATO's crimes do not, to me, absolve Vladimir Putin of invading Ukraine and launching a brutal war that has killed a lot of innocent people. It's called nuance. I know that's not allowed on the internet anymore. You're either all team X or all team Y, but absolutely Russia was lied to. Absolutely Russia faces threats on its border. But to me, that's not an excuse or absolve Vladimir Putin of invading Ukraine. And if people don't like it, that's too bad. That's how I feel. And I'm anti-war, period. And I thought that was the position to take on the left. I thought being a leftist means you're anti-war. So I don't really understand these leftists who are like, but Jordan, the Donbass and Ukraine was killing Russians. I agree. I don't approve of that either. But that doesn't say, okay, then Putin was right to invade Ukraine and kill all these people. And all these leftists, oh no, it's all lies. He's not targeting civilian targets. You think Ukraine is bombing its malls? Why would they do that? So anyway, Jordan is CIA. Yeah, definitely. D Nord, $5. Thank you. SF, member for 7 months. KC Tenants Power tomorrow. Ilis Davis Park, 12:30. Seems like there's a KC Tenants Unions event tomorrow in KC. I did interview somebody from the KC Tenants Unions a couple weeks ago. Das Bosch Fleiss, €5.99. A little more gas money. Thank you, Das Bosch Fleiss. Appreciate it, everybody. I found that Status Coup merch. It is there indeed. Hey, everybody, get to the Status Coup store, statuscoup.com/store. Also, we have other great merchandise on the homepage of our YouTube. Colin, how do they find that again?
You just go to our main YouTube channel page, and there's the tabs that say home, video, and all that, and there should be one that says store, and you just click on that, and it should scroll through some stuff. The main unique stuff on there is like the Status Coup hat and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat. Glenn Polite, $9.99. Looking forward to your reporting on the Albany vote. I love the work you do. Thank you. And by the way, make sure, if you're not, make sure you're signed up for our text message list, because very often YouTube does not notify you when we're live. So you don't want to miss us when we're live from the rally in Albany. StatusCoup.com/text. StatusCoup.com/text. That way you'll get a text message when we're live. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll be live again Monday from the Albany rally. Again, 2 days before the union election. So for those on the left who feel deflated, Bernie's not doing what you want him to do. The squad isn't doing what you want him to do. As I've said, there is hope. This union momentum, the workers who are unionizing and trying to unionize, workers that have gone on strike, tenants unions forming. This is a big election in Albany. And if they win this second Amazon election for a union, it could have a real downstream effect, a real domino effect. So please, please, please tune in on Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern, and support us, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. We really, really need your support. And every member makes a big difference. As a member, you get great perks like joining us on our monthly members call, which we do through Zoom. So thank you, and have a great weekend.